Imagine waking up to the sound of bulldozers in your front yard. And finding out the HOA is trying to demolish your grandfather's cabin. That's how my weekend started. I'm Jackson Reed, a 36-year-old app developer who inherited a lakeside cabin in Willow Bend, Oregon. This cabin wasn't just a getaway, it was my grandfather's legacy. He built it with his own hands back in the 60s, long before any gated community or HOA nonsense popped up around here. So you can guess my reaction when a woman in heels and a pearl slits call her Deborah shows up with a demolition crew and a clipboard. "You were notified," she snapped. "Your structure violates the Harmony Shores HOA code." I blinked. "Deborah, this cabin predates your HO by 40 years. She didn't even flinch. "Doesn't matter. The new zoning map includes your lot. You're in our jurisdiction now." That's when I knew something dirty was going on. But I didn't panic. Instead, I smiled and said, "Well, that's going to be interesting. Since I happen to own the deed to your entire Lakeside clubhouse." You should have seen her face. Let's rewind. A few months back, I moved into the cabin after Grandpa Hank passed away. The place needed love, leaky roof, warped floorboards, but it had soul. I started fixing it up on weekends, blending old charm with modern updates. Then came the letters. Official-looking envelopes accusing me of violating aesthetic guidelines, threatening fines, even warning of removal. Removal. I ignored the first few. Then Deborah showed up in person with her designer entourage. "Mr. Reed," she said, eyes scanning my flannel shirt like it was contagious. "You're bringing down the property values." I laughed. "You mean your million-dollar condos built on top of what used to be forests?" She didn't laugh. Instead, she handed me a map freshly approved by the town council showing new HOA boundaries that magically absorbed my cabin into Harmony Shores. I had 30 days to either comply with HOA standards or face daily fines. I called my Uncle Victor, who'd handled Grandpa's estate. He's a retired real estate attorney with a grudge against bureaucracy. So naturally, he was all in. We visited the county records office. Victor knew the right clerk to ask an old poker buddy, and we pulled every document we could. That's when we discovered something incredible. Back in 1983, Grandpa sold most of the lakefront property to developers, but he kept 3 specific lots: the cabin, and the land where Harmony Shores later built their $4 million clubhouse and Olympic-sized pool. Victor almost spit out his coffee. They built their palace on Hank's land. Yep. Either it was a catastrophic title error, or someone fudged documents hoping nobody would dig deep enough to notice. And now they wanted my cabin too. Oh, it was personal. I knew I had to see what else was brewing. So I reached out to my neighbor, Mason, who reluctantly sat on the HOA board. Turns out, Harmony Shores had big plans, a resort-style expansion with spa services. luxury suites, and it fees a wellness center right where my cabin sits. Mason snuck me into the next board meeting under a fake name. It was straight out of a soap opera. Deborah strutted around like a dictator with a wine glass. Councilman Langston, who, shocker, was also her brother-in-law, nodded along to everything. When I saw the presentation slide showing my cabin replaced with a yoga dome and mineral pool, I knew this wasn't about regulations. It was a land grab. That night, I broke into the HOA office. I know, not my proudest moment, but I found what I needed: emails between Deborah and city officials, minutes from secret meetings, even plans to fast-track an eviction order through Judge Kellerman, a golfing buddy of Langston's. Victor filed an emergency injunction. We also leaked the documents to a local reporter, Ivy Delgado, who'd been sniffing around for a corruption story. She published a teaser article, HOA caught red-handed in land dispute. That's when things got wild. 2 guys were caught on my security cam pouring gasoline around my cabin. Turns out, Deborah had paid them $1,000 each to make my eyesore go away. They were arrested, and one flipped immediately, naming her as the mastermind. By the time we got to court, the whole town had heard the story. Reporters everywhere. Residents who'd been bullied by the HOA packed the gallery. Deborah's lawyer tried to argue my property fell under HOA rules. Victor calmly presented the original deed, zoning maps, and the bombshell that 60% of the clubhouse was on land legally owned by me. Deborah claimed Grandpa Hank signed a waiver in 1990. Victor smiled. That's impressive. Hank died in '87. Judge Kellerman didn't say a word for a full minute. Then she dropped the gavel and halted all HOA activity pending a fraud investigation. In the end, I offered to sell the land under the clubhouse for $1 million, far below its market value, but only under 3 conditions. 1. My cabin would be permanently exempt from HOA control. 2. Deborah and the entire board would resign. 3. The money would go into a community fund for local scholarships. The residents agreed. Deborah. She pled guilty to multiple charges and lost everything, including her beloved pearls. As for Langston, he resigned in disgrace. Turns out his construction company had been skimming off HOA projects for years. The new HOA board is actually run by people who care now. They even asked me to help with transparency tools. Go figure. As I sit on the porch of my restored cabin, coffee in hand, I think about how close I came to losing it all. But sometimes, standing up to bullies exposes rot no one else had the courage to face. So tell me, have you ever had to deal with a power-hungry HOA or a community group gone rogue? Drop your story in the comments below. Let's talk about it. And remember, justice might be slow, but when it lands, oh boy, does it hit hard.